nakushemererwa kuba noija aha page ya Plan B Legal Wise kasharinje katambure munywani wanje nija kwisya nti government ya Museveni yahereze kumbagara. Government ya Museveni yahereze kumbagara nibura hakantu kake akaitwa abanyayuganda kugisindika ikagwa kuriya ekunamisirizi abwaki because kutoro kutera mutoki wareba abebembeza beyine abeyeshwikire dakikeji ningashi emite hayemerire emite kariwa karemshwa because koro kubatera mutoki bona the leaders, the so-called leaders in the NRM, there's nothing that you can identify on them wakajotugu no mwebembezi. Oh, he's a leader, oh, she's a leader. Because you look at Tamastaiwa, the incompetence, lack of ethics, lack of integrity. You look at Nabanja, Oreba, abantu nyamwinji. There are so many people that you look at kukajiruti ngaha. This cannot be a government. This is the bunch of thieves. You look at no. Take an example. Look at the Legislative Council of Uganda. It has got a lot of members of parliament who call themselves lawyers. But the crime in Uganda starts right in the parliament. The crime starts right in the corridors of the parliament. Because the so-called lawyers have not applied their skills to make sure that they curb down the crime. So if the members of parliament are criminals, what do you think will happen with the other technocrats that they are supposed to be oversighting at? And you look at the parliament of Uganda, we have so many people who are called engineers. But you wouldn't ask yourself why. With people who hold positions that lead sectors but have no documents that prove that they are really competent. Even from the way they do their work, they lead the country on deception, like they do not have documents, proper documents to be in those positions. I hope this is only in Uganda but not in the rest of Africa. So you ask yourself in that manner that why do we have so many engineers but we have a lot of substandard work produced by the government, roads, schools, everything, infrastructure. You look at the government of Uganda and ask yourself, why? We have so many legislative... No, we have so many people in the Legislative Council that claim to be lawyers, but crime starts there. Someone goes away in the corridor with cement for schools, for the road, iron sheets, but we have not seen you apply your skills there. And they stand and select people to lead sectors, but you don't stand and say no. That's where we have people from the Western that think Bali Muchintu, as they say, but they don't have nothing to show that Bali Muchintu. So we shall be coming again and again discussing the current affairs of Uganda and Africa at large. In other words, at some point, African leaders make us feel like, the European rule was far better than them, because when we were still under the European rule, or when the Europeans came, they brought schools, they gave us railway lines, they built schools, they built us hospitals, which has been vandalized and, destroyed by our black fellow leaders. It is very unfortunate, it is very painful that our fellow leaders, our fellow black leaders, are the ones that have failed us. Because when Africa was still under the colonial rule that our great grandfathers stood and fought against, they brought us education, they brought us schools, they built schools when they had no even taxes paid to them. They gave us railway lines, means of transport, built roads. But it is very unfortunate that those roads have been destroyed by our African brothers, our African leaders, fellow blacks. It is very unfortunate. I find it a big problem in Africa. But sometimes, at some point, they make us even, like the young generation, they make us think like, when we read our history, they make us think that maybe they are the ones, the Europeans were far better. Because if they would take coal, look at this. No, they would take coal, gold, and all that. They give us proper functioning schools, proper functioning health care. Okay? But today, they still take the coal, they still take the copper, they still take the gold and pay the money to our black brothers, but they give us nothing. The so-called leaders, they don't give us no schools, they don't give us no hospitals, they don't give us no health care, they give us nothing. It is very painful. I told you I want you to look at it in that way. That our great-grandfathers stood and fought, no, we cannot work here anymore. We have low pays and all that. But those people came and built schools. They built hospitals. They built railway transport, railway lines crossing from Kenya to Uganda, where and where. And even up to now, those are some of the blueprints that we are still developing at. All that our black leaders took up too, because they are the same hospitals. But they were functioning when we were still under the colonial rule, and now they don't work anymore. They don't function. It's very painful, my brothers and sisters. We need to do something about this. It's either we're getting the right people, the right leaders, or we are going to suffer for the rest of our lives. In other words, I urge you, our fellow black leaders that we have, our fellow Africans, that our great-grandfathers fought so hard that this gold was being taken, platinum, silver, diamond, and gave you what you have today. You are in those offices, but you have really tortured us. When we ask you why we don't have schools, you kill us, you send the police. And it's our fellow blacks. So we escaped the slavery of the Europeans. Now we came to the slavery of our own black brothers. It's very unbelievable, but it's true, because they send the same people to come and beat us. They send the same black people. That time our great-grandfathers were being beaten by white people, by Europeans. And they stood and said, no, we must do something to end this. They put it an end. The gold was there. But now, the leaders that we have that are black still sell the gold to the Europeans, still sell the platinum, the diamond. But before, we used to get hospitals, we used to get schools. There's no first black man to build a school. So that is what is very dangerous. That's what I don't like. Tasolo. That's what makes me not understand how, because they used to take the gold and we get schools, we get roads, we get railway that is functioning properly. Hello, Tasolo, how are you? But today, to our surprise, we are under our black brothers. They are the ones in office. They still sell the gold, they still sell the diamond, they still sell the coal and everything, but when they are paid, they give us no schools, they give us no services. In other words, when we ask, why don't we have schools? Why don't we have hospitals? Why don't we have this? Why are services crippled? What they give us is beatings, torture, imprisonment, harassment. That's always the answer. So you ask yourself, because for us, we were not there, we read books and we saw people of the King Kitile Ngwales, the Dedan Kimathis, the Nelson Mandelas, Steve Biko's, Kwame Nkrumah, Haile Selassie. They stood and said, no, this is wrong. And they decided to chase away those people so that we could get 100% share of the resources. Now, it's not only resources, but we have also added taxes. We pay taxes and they have given 100% of the resources to our African brothers, our leaders. But they give us no schools, they give us no accountability, they give us nothing. So this is what we always tell people, that our African brothers have failed us. I don't attack them, but it's the reality. You let me know what you think in the comment section. Our great grandfathers, what they received from the, okay, and what we have now. Great youths.